So, have you done this a lot?
Oh yeah, lots of assisting, running jobs, lots of things really.
Never directing then?
Not just yet. It was the scent that made me want to be a director.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never seen anything so fresh, so...
So, tactile?
Yeah, I was going to say raw, but tactile's good too. Oh, I see you're a pro.
Oh, it was a long time ago. Suppose you've seen them all?
A couple. A lot of them aren't online, but...
You're only going to use the one angle, Megan?
Yeah, just the one. So, my first question is obvious, forgive me. But I wanted to ask you, what made you want to get into animation?
Well, it's a very good question, and I'm more than happy to answer it. It was when I was 18, my first trip to London. I saw a Stan Brakhage film in this tiny cinema, which, even for the 70s, would be what you would call somewhat derelict. Is everything all right, Megan?
I'm sorry, we're just going to have to pause for a second.
Anyway, I'd never seen anything like it. I'd always figured art to be inherently creative. But in that moment, in that film, I saw the destructive potential of the medium. Never seen anything quite like it before.
And how do you toe the line between inspiration and, well, ripping it off? I'm always worried about.
It's somewhat symbiotic. See, I might be inspired by someone else's art. The same as an artist might be inspired by mine. There's no clear boundaries.
I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but...
You don't need to qualify all of your questions.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Scent. It was the first film of yours I've ever saw, and it's remarkably different from your student work.
Well, when you're a student, you're constrained by the rules, what's right and what's wrong. It's in the freefall that you really find your voice. My whole career has been built on the freefall, not in some institution or art school.
Yes. Your technique with that film was so playful.
It was a lot more intricate than that. It was there I developed my ability to deconstruct a scene so that you end up with the full essence. Yep, that's the power of experimental film, not all this commercial shit. It's you and the image. Aren't you writing that down?
No, of course.
So, you only write down what you agree with.
It's just, you can hardly insult our commercial cinema, can you? You once said that Fantasia was one of your biggest influences.
Well, I merely mentioned Fantasia because as a small boy and growing up in rural Somerset in the 60s, one wasn't exposed to the high-end films that you've got there in your pocket. It was a necessity. Where are you from, anyway?
Lisbon.
Well, you couldn't begin to understand. You take it for granted to be surrounded by art.
We really don't need to be talking about me.
I'm sure your viewers would be interested in you, Megan. Where's this going out, anyway?
Just YouTube.
Yeah, to be an artist, you have to take risks. You can't just throw it out into the depths of YouTube.
It's not that easy, though. I mean...
But you must be at least a little ballsy. It was you who wrote to me.
Your email's on your website, on the homepage, in pretty big font. Were you inspired by any of your fellow students? I mean, some of them have gone on to do some really interesting...
What do you mean by some? Are you angling for something here?
I was thinking of Betty Carson. You worked with her a lot.
Betty assisted me on a film 30 years ago. We no longer speak.
You never worked with another partner, so...
Betty wasn't my partner.
Then what appealed to you about working alone?
With people like her, it's clouding your judgment. It's, what if we do this? What if we do that? With me, it's about the vision. It's what I see, what I draw, what I...
Just you. I mean, film is hardly an individual medium.
What, you're on your own?
My team was busy.
You've got a team?
So Betty was a distraction. Your assistant who ran errands for you whilst just you, created a masterpiece.
There's this idea that art's all about collaboration. It isn't. It's about vision. And too many visions.
What about symbiotic relationship? So it's all bullshit.
It's what we say. What we say to give hope to people like...
To people like me.
Your words.
3 years before Descent, Betty Carson makes studies in grain. She deconstructs the image of a wooden table, distorting...
Oh, I see. So she invented image distortion.
Why can't you just acknowledge that she inspired you? I mean, at the very least. You really can't do it, can you? You're what, 65? And you can't even give credit to a woman who hasn't worked in 30 years.
This film isn't about her.
It's important. You go on to have this career you barely nurture.
I'm not going to entertain this.
Why? Because you're above it?
Yes, I am above giving an interview to a fucking child.
You emailed me in 5 minutes.
So, Betty Carson makes a film and you project this image that she's some sort of misunderstood genius. You think you're like her, don't you? This is just a manifestation of your insecurity.
I'm insecure.
What's there to stop me? What's there to really stop me from taking that camera?
You can't.
Can't? What can't I do? If I'm some sort of thief, why couldn't I? It's easier than stealing from a grate. Isn't that what you said? Oh, she made a masterpiece. This isn't Descent, but with me, with my...